I'm Bill Duran, and I've been building props and costumes for the last 5 years. Here at Punish Props, we make nothing but the finest replica props. Welcome to the Prop Shop. Hey everybody, it's Bill Duran here from Punish Props, and last year at DragonCon, my twin brother Rob built this Claptrap robot puppet right there. And we thought, hey, wouldn't it be awesome if we had a whole bunch of them, like an army of Claptraps, at next year's DragonCon? Well, DragonCon is coming up, and I built another one. That makes 2 of us, but I want to have more, so I'm going to show you guys how I built this so that you can do yours super fast and super cheap, so that we get a whole crap load of them in our Claptrap army. First, safety. You will be using some power tools. There will be dust. I've got my goggles right here to protect my eyes, and I also have a respirator right there. I used MDF. That stuff kicks up some nasty dust, so wear that respirator. For a full list of all the materials and tools you'll need for this build, look for a link down in the description. There will be a link to a blueprint that you can get with rough dimensions so that you can draw everything out exactly how I did it. Now, you don't have to do it exactly how I did it. This is the quickest and cheapest way to do it. I spent about $75 in materials, plus any tools you might need to get. Feel free to elaborate on your build as much as your time will allow. Once you've collected your materials, you can start by cutting out the side panels on your Claptrap. You'll want to follow the dimensions in the blueprint that I provide down below and draw those panels out on your 1/4" MDF sheets, and then cut it out using a jigsaw or a coping saw if that's all you've got. Rob built his entire thing with a coping saw. No joke. Then you will want to cut your support boards to length. They get glued and screwed into the side panels. These will live there forever, and that's where you will attach all the panels together so that you can take it apart later on to put it in your suitcase and bring it to DragonCon. There will be a little bit of excess for these support boards. I just carved that right off with a jigsaw. It worked just fine. With your sides all assembled, you can drill some holes for the top part that will also be screwed in with some wood screws. For the eye socket connection piece, you'll want to cut that out of a piece of 3/4" wood. Again, using your jigsaw, just sort of trace out your shapes, cut it out. Also, drill some holes, a couple of them through the support piece and through the giant 4" 3" connector PVC piece that we'll use as the eye socket. This way we can attach that with some screws later on. And then that can also get glued and screwed into the front panel of your Claptrap. The wheel that I got will take an axle of about 5/8 of an inch, so that's the size dowel that I got. I also found these elbow joints right here that go from I think a 1/2 inch to a 3/4 inch pipe to connect it to our side pieces here. So I had to do a little bit of sanding on the axle to get it to fit. You could do this by hand or use a disc sander like I've got. Once the axle was cut to the appropriate length and fit into those elbow pieces, I drilled some holes and put some screws in there so that I could take it apart later on. Then the long PVC pieces that come up from the sides of the axle, these guys right here, they got 3 holes drilled in both the side panel and into the PVC pipe. That way the axle will be nice and secure later on with some screws and some wing nuts, and also could be taken apart. The handles were a similar beast. The elbow joints are just 3/4 to 3/4" at I think like a 60-degree angle or something. They got glued together with some PVC cement, and I drilled a giant hole in the back of my robot for those 2 handle pieces to go in. And then again, drilled 3 holes, these those connector holes right there, to also screw in and wing nut close those pieces. This way, again, I can take those apart and put it in my suitcase. The arms are made out of a slightly thicker PVC pipe. I cut them to length, chop, chop, chop. And then they got connected at the elbow and the shoulder using some hose. Use whatever you can find and it should be just okay. I connected them using some wood screws that went right through the PVC into the hose, and that seems to be holding it just fine. I did the same thing on the shoulder, except up at the top where it connects to the side panel there, I used some wing nuts again so that I could take it apart later on. These hands here are just some chunks of wood, some 3/4" wood that I cut to shape and sanded down. To connect them to the PVC pipe, I got these end caps for the pipes. I put a screw through there and then drilled a hole in the hand and screwed it on. And then the PVC cap got glued on to the arm and ta-da! There's a little hand there. The shoulder flappies here are just some MDF pieces that I cut out also. Follow the dimensions in the blueprint below. That's about it for the assembly. Once the pieces were all put together, I took it apart a little bit and then painted the whole thing. I went with the traditional yellow Claptrap, but please feel free to go nuts. There's a whole bunch of really cool Claptrap designs out there, like the Gentleman Collar or the Jacobs one. So go crazy with your Claptrap paint job. The process in general was just to put a flat color on the robot and then start painting all of the details and stuff on there. I was not very careful with my paint job. I went just kind of nuts on it because I wanted this to be done quickly. I relied on being able to go over all of the edges of the paint with some Sharpie to clean up all of the sort of mess ups that I did. And it looks pretty good since, you know, Borderlands has that outlined thing going on and it helps hide the crimes, if you will. For the most part, I would just draw out a shape quickly with some Sharpie, paint over it to get the general look of it. Then once it dried, I would sort of trace it using a ruler with a big old Sharpie to cover all of the sort of sloppiness on the edges. I did this over the entire Claptrap and then sort of traced the edges with a big Magnum Sharpie to do all the finishing work on this guy. The shoulder flappies, once they were ready to go, I used a hinge, a little hinge here, and drilled it in with some machine screws on the flap and then used some wood screws to attach it to the body in there. That way, again, I can take these off when it's moving around. Now, when Rob did his Claptrap originally, he found this really cool globe thing that lights up. I couldn't find one of those, so I just cut out a piece of cardboard and painted it to look right. But if you can find one of those globes that's about 3 inches in diameter, go with that one. Lastly, I attached these really long sort of puppet sticks for the robot for controlling his arms when he's running around. Just put a couple of holes through the pipe at the wrist, if you will, and another hole through the stick and attached it with some string. These sticks I'm probably gonna have to chop up to fit in my suitcase and figure out a way to hold them together, maybe with some hose clamps, but that should do the trick. Lastly, I put some screws in the axle here to sort of center the wheel so I can take those out later on when I have to disassemble this guy. And that's it, I think. I mean, the wheel isn't centered, I have to do that again, but it looks pretty good. Other than that, you know, the power is yours, guys. This was, like I said, about $75 in materials. That left me with a ton of scrap left over that I'll use for other projects. And it took me about maybe 10 hours worth of work. This is definitely something you could do in a weekend or get most of it done then and then get the rest of it finished off in a week or so. So please give this one a shot. This was a lot of fun. It came together really, really fast. And I want to see like dozens of these things at DragonCon this year. We have a Facebook group, Claptrap's Army, for DragonCon 2014. Go ahead, there's a link to that down below as well. Please join if you're planning on joining in our shenanigans at DragonCon this year. Other than that, folks, I've got a whole bunch more videos, build videos, props and costumes, all that great stuff. You can check those out over here and definitely subscribe because I do this kind of stuff all the time and you definitely don't want to miss it. Thank you again, guys. See you around.
I am alive! Oh, God! They're coming out of the wall sphincters! I got nothing. Onward! And open!
All right,
Hopefully some of those sounds are usable.
I think we nailed it.